Hello and welcome to Two Across, the podcast where two friends on opposite sides of the Atlantic get together and catch up over a crossword. I'm Theo Bosanquet, sitting in London.
And I'm Rob Cole in Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
Hello Rob, it's nice to see you again.
Yes, after a small absence.
A small absence and a really uneventful time in terms of world and on this side of the pond, local events. I can't really think of anything that's been going on, really.
Yeah, I was almost wondering if we didn't cancel this one today, because there's just a real lack of things to talk about. But
barely any material at all. Yeah, so we are just on the other side of our general election, which went, I suppose, according to predictions, in that it was the Labour landslide. And as discussed in the previous episode, I was working a night shift at the BBC on the evening itself, so I got to see the results coming in live right up until 9 a.m.
For your sins.
For my sins. Fortunately, having had young children, I'm not a stranger to sleepless nights, so it was actually fine, and I drank lots of Red Bull, and yeah, it was a really, really interesting election. And
I bet.
Yeah.
Lighter on drama, I would imagine, in the Situation Room than it had been when you did it last time.
Well, certainly lighter on surprises. We had all been briefed in advance and obviously had read the opinion polls that had pretty much correctly predicted what the outcome would be. There were still a few surprises in terms of the individual seats, and a few MPs clung on who maybe weren't predicted to cling on, and conversely a few MPs got booted out who weren't predicted to get booted out. But the general shape of things unfurled very much as foretold, and really as soon as the exit poll came out at 10 p.m, that was really in some ways the major drama of the evening, because those exit polls have been very accurate for the last few elections over here, so you pretty much know at that point which way the wind is blowing, and in this case it was a gale force wind blowing Sir Keir Starmer into number 10.
Yes, and they underestimated this time, because I think the exit polls were 410 and he got 412, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. So they slightly underestimated. They also thankfully overestimated the number of seats that Reform UK, which is our right-wing kind of protest party, the exit poll predicted they would get, I think it was 13 or 14 seats. Fortunately, they ended up with less than half that number. I think they got 5. So, yeah, in some ways, the exit poll was gloomier, or certainly from a kind of centrist or progressive perspective, the exit poll was gloomier than the actual result. And yeah, I think that everybody felt very much that it was time for change, as the Labour slogan had it, and just this sort of feeling of relief, really, that this kind of 5 years of shambolic Tory madness is finally at an end. And meanwhile, obviously, France has had its own dramas and its own election, which has produced, to everybody's surprise, a hung parliament, where I think the right wing were widely predicted to get a majority. So yeah, that's a very strange situation as well, and I think probably Macron has done, I don't think it can be said that his gamble has really paid off, because he's really just ended up with a mess.
I've heard different reviews on that. So
okay.
After the first round of voting, because they do 2 rounds in France, it looked like his gamble had failed spectacularly, because, as you said, it was putting the National Rally into a position where they would have been either in a majority or a very strong minority. And the second round, through tactical voting, brought their bloc, although higher than it was in the previous parliament, much lower than expected, and actually puts Macron's party in a position of kingmaker, because they sit with the third most number of seats after the left-wing coalition and just behind the National Rally. But they in the left-wing coalition have enough seats to form a coalition. And I don't know what they're going to do, whether they're going to have formal coalition talks or not. I think for now there's like a caretaker government with the existing PM having been asked to stay on. And then it'll probably be something like the Spain situation, where there will be protracted negotiations to see if they can form a government. Now, apparently, France doesn't have a history of coalition governments the way, for instance, Germany or other countries do.
No.
And so this is terra incognita for them, and it could basically lead to complete stagnation. Like, I think Macron staked out the center, and the flanks ended up outflanking him, basically. But
yeah.
He is probably even slightly right of center for France. And so his ability to cobble together a coalition with the left would require sacrificing, I think, a lot of his program. Because, of course, Macron was a banker and he prides himself on fiscal management. And the left are traditionally portrayed as a side of the political spectrum with less fiscal responsibility. Now, I don't know how that sits in France. And, of course, Labour, coming back to the UK, is very interesting because Sir Keir is coming on with not only with a mandate for change, but with a mandate for sound fiscal management.
Yeah, I know.
And for boosting the economy, which is a strange thing if you think 5 years back in the Corbyn program, which was like a Santa's wish list of unfunded programs. Yeah. That Labour is all of a sudden this completely different animal and standing for a responsibility that the Tories basically cast aside. So everything is just, it's wild.
That point is really important. I think that the Tories have effectively given up the right to claim that they are the party of sound economic management, which was always the claim that they made for pretty much every election that I can remember in my lifetime. It was the choice between, well, do you want Labour who are going to put taxes up and spend irresponsibly, or do you want the Tories who are going to sort of cut things but essentially keep the economic show on the road? And in more often than not, the Tories would win that argument. But now, in the wake of Boris Johnson, Liz Truss in particular, and the pandemic and other kind of more global factors, but essentially through a series of fairly catastrophic decisions, as I say, they no longer occupy that territory. So Labour have moved into it. I think Keir Starmer has played a fairly straight bat, which was the right call. He's kind of exuded that air of being the grown-up that's turned up at the party and switched the lights on and sort of told everyone to grab a mop, which I think is exactly the right look. It's very much what the country is crying out for at the moment. So yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. As was said beforehand, the idea of I think he's got a majority that's pretty much as big as Tony Blair's. That could in some ways cause difficulties because he'll get some opposition from inside his own party. But I think the general feeling is that we'd far rather be in our situation currently than France's, which has not been the case for a while, or certainly ever since Brexit. So it's nice. It's nice to be feeling vaguely and very cautiously optimistic in the UK for once.
Well, I think you're due. And two comments, yes. But I wanted to come back on another, is that Labour didn't really have a choice, and Starmer was simply opportunistic with what was handed to him. And it was handed to him because the Tory party, as you say, it's kind of lost a lot of its identity. So for sound fiscal management having been one of them. But the other thing that we fail or we forget sometimes is that backing something like Brexit was actually in some senses very un-Tory, because the right wing is traditionally associated with free trade and globalization to a certain extent, and Brexit is a move against both. Certainly a move against free trade, which generally speaking, in the modern era has been associated with right-wing politics. And you're seeing that in other places. So it's like the Trump Republicans became very protectionist, which hadn't been the case from, for instance, the Reagan Republicans in the 80s, who were fiercely free trade and signed agreements, notably with my country, on free trade. But that was the sort of zeitgeist at the time. And parties center and left and right of center, or at least slightly left and right of center as they used to be, both embrace those principles. So the reality is it's just the landscape is shifting, and everyone's trying to figure out which sort of place they stake on that landscape right now. And Labour has staked, obviously, a very successful piece of landscape, although, we'll see. Yeah. Another thing is I find it funny how in England, the minute an election ends, everyone's thinking about polling for the next one. They're like, oh, well, Labour's going to have to watch out because Reform are taking their historically working class base and they're going to have to look over their shoulders. Like they have 5 years and a huge majority. Like they don't need to worry about polls for a while. But
It's a national pastime, really. This kind of bringing people down and sniffing out any piece of optimism or hope and immediately squashing it. How dare we dream? How dare we think that things may actually improve for once? No. It's all going to get worse, and this is why. So that kind of keeps our feet on the ground. And I have to say, maybe as a final thought on this, because we should get into the crossword, but one of the things that I found most heartening about watching the results rolling in is that in all these sort of slightly strange figures pop up on election night, all these local mayors who kind of report the count numbers, and you get all these protest figures who stand for election, like famously Lord Buckethead over here, who is a man with a bin on his head. So you just, the camera's kind of cut from leisure centre to leisure centre as all this sort of cast of eccentrics do their bit for our democracy. But there's something incredibly comforting about that. And I thought for all his for all the sort of shambolic nature of his campaign, I thought Rishi Sunak, when the first thing he said in his concession speech was, there will be a peaceful handover of power because that is how we do things here.
Yes.
Was essentially what he said. And I thought that was so important and struck just the right note. And actually seeing what's happened elsewhere in recent times, we must no longer take that for granted. So right. I found this sort of massive and rather eccentric expression of British democracy to be just in and of itself like a large sort of warm bowl of comfort food in a world that seems to increasingly have gone mad. So anyway, maybe we'll check in on some other matters after the crossword, because we haven't really done the kind of the personal bit yet, but we should get into it.
Definitely.
So this week we are going to do Guardian Quick Crossword number 16,903. So do log on and play along with us if that is your bent. And I'm going to set the timer off 30 minutes. And I think the scores, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, are 13-12 in our favour.
Yes. So the winds are in our sails as well. Things are looking up.
Indeed.
That could be famous last words. I have not yet looked at any of the clues in Guardian Quick Crossword 16,903, but let's do that.
So the first clue is hopefully a good omen, in that the clue is, for one across, is easy, trouble-free. Mm-hmm. And that is 2 words. It's 5-7. Easy, trouble-free. And I do have a guess.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't. What you got?
Oh, no, I don't have a guess. My guess was straightforward, but obviously straight is too long.
Okay. Why don't we try and tackle some of the downs, because I don't have an immediate guess on that either.
System of a Down.
System of a Down. Oh, my gosh. Talking of bad zeros, emos bands.
I saw someone wearing a System of a Down T-shirt the other day, and
wow.
I didn't really know what to make of it.
No, maybe they don't either.
Maybe they don't. Indeed. 7 down I'm looking at. Situation lacking in privacy, 8-4.
No, I think we just need a few letters and these will start following.
How about surgeon's opening move, 8 letters? Could that be an incision if that fits?
Having recently been incised, I think that could certainly. So incision, and that would put an S as the 4th letter of 12 across, floating frozen mass, which is 3 letters, 5 letters. And if this is the case, then the first letter of the second word would be an S.
So could that be an ice shelf?
I believe that could be an ice shelf.
Because it can't be Berg.
No, it can't be Berg. And it didn't need to be detached. It could be attached, as an ice shelf is. So Theo, I think I'm willing to commit to your incision.
Great. Well, that's a very appropriate first clue to get.
It was very incisive.
And I did mean to ask, you mentioned your surgery. How is your arm? Because I failed to ask last week and felt guilty.
Oh, yeah. No, you know what? It's very surprising. I think I'd mentioned in the podcast that I've done the exact same thing before, so I kind of know the drill. But this time around, they're much less prescriptive around casting and stuff. So I was out of any kind of protective casting in less than 4 weeks after, in 2.5 weeks after the surgery, actually. And now I'm completely free of anything. It's been about 5 weeks today since I had the surgery. Yeah. So I started physio. They're manipulating me and dealing with the scar tissue. And it's honestly, I'm like shocked at how quickly the whole thing is coming back around. Time flies, man. I mean, time heals all wounds, as they say. And in this case, I'm happy about that.
Great.
Yeah.
Time is indeed a healer.
It is.
So 15 across silently forms words, 6 letters, second letter O. Could that be mouths?
Oh, yes. Yes, I like that very much. And on their sound theme, I have another one, 10 across, which is sound measurement. It is 7 letters long, and the third letter is a C from our incision. And I think I have a guess at that one.
Go on.
Well, I believe this is a decibel.
Of course. Good one.
Yeah, our old friend, the decibel. And then 6 down could have some potential for ease, which is inspire, in brackets, with feelings or ideas. And it is 5 letters, middle letter B, end letter E.
Oh, imbue.
Imbue. That's a good word.
It's a lovely word, imbue. Yeah. I'm going to imbue you with my thoughts about the British election.
And you did.
And I did. I probably overdid.
Ooh, we have a Canadian one, Theo.
Oh, yeah, go on.
There's been a little bit too much United Kingdom on today's podcast, and I think The Guardian, in their own little way, are trying to re-equilibrate our crossword or our discussion today. Yeah. So it is Ontario's capital city, which is 7 letters down, and it starts with the letter T.
I think even I can get that one, Rob.
Go for it.
It's Toronto.
Toronto. Yeah, when you're from Toronto, there's a famous song called Switch It to Glide by the Kings, and he rhymes Toronto with the woman's name Donna. So
wow,
that's how you're supposed to pronounce Toronto if you're from it.
That's good to know. So the T is really completely superfluous, and
it's completely superfluous.
And the O should be an A.
If you're really from there, I mean, I lived in Toronto for a while, and you see, I call it Toronto. So the T is silent, and most people these days will pronounce the O as an O sound, but Toronto is acceptable as well.
I want to go and see Donna in Toronto.
You got it.
I'm gonna.
You're ready to move.
Much better for song lyrics. That pronunciation.
Much better.
So, okay. This situation lacking in privacy, 8-4, now has a third letter of L, a fifth letter of F, and a 7th letter of S.
Yes.
But I'm still not seeing it.
I'm not either. Nope.
No.
And I don't want to struggle over it and then get ourselves in a situation.
I'm hoping the first letter is going to crack that one open for us.
I hope so. Well, what we need, Theo, is an expression of a universal truth to help us to discover that. Because, of course, if we discover the universal truth, then we can work our way towards the particular, as philosophy would have us believe. And this is in the crossword as 9 across. It is 5 letters. And I think I might have a guess.
Expression of a universal truth, 5 letters. Okay. No, I was going to say truth. But of course, that's in the clue, so it's not going to be that. Go on.
That would be leading by The Guardian. Well, see, I was thinking about this, but then I'm looking at 3 down, and I'm wondering if it fits. So I was thinking axiom.
Ooh, good word.
But however, 3 down is a wild mountain goat, and it is 4 letters long. And if we're at axiom, then an M would be the third letter of our wild mountain goat. So, I mean, that could be an ibex, but of course that's an E, and then that would get rid of our...
Haven't we had ibex before?
We've had ibis before. I don't know if we've had ibex. We may have.
I remember we had browser, didn't we, which was a deer.
That's right.
Okay, let's try and get 8 down because that will give us lots and lots of fodder because it's a 426, so it's 12 letters in total, and the clue is the middle of nowhere. 426. Middle of nowhere. Back of beyond.
Oh, ho, 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 ho. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Very nice.
I like your francophile reaction to that.
Yes. My brother-in-law is French, and we always insist that's the French laugh, and he claims to have never heard of that before, but he'll put it on for us sometimes. So sometimes when we need a French laugh, we'll look over at Guillaume, and he'll oblige us with one.
Does he happen to have a large moustache?
He does not, unfortunately. I should encourage him to wear one.
Absolutely. Expression of a universal truth now does begin with an A, Rob.
It does indeed.
So I think you're right about axiom.
Yeah, you'd think so. I mean, an adage could also be a possibility, which does end in E. I don't like it as much as axiom. However, an adage is an attempt to express a universal truth, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And what does that make our wild mountain goat? It could then be ibex.
It could be ibex.
Yeah.
Well, what about
Rob.
2 down, Theo? Oh, okay, wait. Before we do that, let's get one that hopefully we can get, which is 11 across, brown seaweed, 4 letters starting in K.
Kale?
Well, kale's not a seaweed, though.
It's not, and it's not brown. That's a terrible guess.
No. But it's seaweed-esque. It's coarse and brown
Just tell me,
seaweed.
Rob. I'm
I don't
floundering.
know. I thought this was... Oh, kelp.
Oh, kelp, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that took me a second. Because I was thinking, what would you get? What are those things that you roll sushi in? And I was obsessed with that. But no, of course not.
That is good stuff.
Yes.
Kelp. I need somebody, kelp.
It's the otter's refrain as it swims through the kelp forest.
Never mind the Beatles, it's the otters. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sue. Okay, now
we have coming, 14 across, 6 letters starting in F. I'm trying to get us a few more letters for our 2 down. Coming.
Sorry, the schoolboy in me is just
of course
giggling away.
It doesn't start with J though. So it's not gonna be that.
Unfortunately.
No.
So 6 letters coming. No.
Like the coming century or the...
Yeah. Like arriving would work, wouldn't it? Something like that. But beginning with F.
Yeah.
No. Not seeing it.
No. Like
let's try and get some...
Foretold, but that's 2 letters too long. Okay. We've got circular, which is 2 down, 7 letters, 5th letter L from kelp. I was hoping not to hit this right away because I cannot immediately get this. I reckoned a circular could either be... Oh, it could be a leaflet.
Oh, as in like a... Yeah, that's a great guess. Because I was, of course, thinking about the shape and thinking, rotund or...
Yes, I was too.
Spherical or something like that. But leaflet is a brilliant guess.
All right.
Let's
and that
go
puts
with
an A in the 3rd position of our universal truth, which would suggest that adage is correct then that gives us our E for ibex, which we can also put in. Sorry, listeners, we're moving quickly here, but...
And coming now has a 3rd letter of T. So it's F blank T blank blank blank. So it could be something... It could be a double T.
Yeah.
Oh, or fetch. No.
Almost.
Nearly. Let's keep going. We can get one more letter in that.
Yeah, from card and board game, 8 down, and we have no letters. Or sorry, 13 down, but 8 letters, and we have none of them.
Solitaire. is a guess.
Is that a board game as well?
Yes.
It doesn't fit though, is it? It's AIRE, right?
I was going to say it ends in an E, so that doesn't fit. Dominoes, is that a card game at all? No.
Well, it does fit. With deep indignation here, 22 across. Let's just get some there that could confirm or infirm.
Yeah.
It starts in O. It's 7 across, and I believe in a previous podcast I had accused The Guardian of specializing in this brand of journalism.
In outrage.
Outrage. This is an outrage. Yes.
I would say the Telegraph is more your publication for outrage, or perhaps the Mail, if you really want to go for it.
Yeah.
They're very outraged, obviously, in the wake of our election results.
I would imagine.
But now they can just enjoy spending 5 years claiming that everything would be better if we didn't pay any taxes.
Yeah.
This one's quite interesting. 18 across, book plate. 2-6, and it begins with an E, a book plate.
What is the book plate? Is that the spine? Is that the...
I think it's the thing at the beginning, like the page, the first page after you open the book, but...
Oh, okay.
I don't know that. My father was a bookseller.
Oh, dear.
He'll be shouting at me.
He'll be outraged.
He will. He'll be expressing outrage.
Okay, so Dominoes doesn't fit, by the way, because outrage takes that out.
I don't think Dominoes is a card game, so I don't think it fits anyway.
Okay.
But a card and board game is... I feel like I should know that, because I play quite a lot of card and board games, but I can't think of...
Oh, I know what it is.
Oh, go on.
It is not a card or a game that is both a card and board game. It is a card game that uses a board to count the points.
Oh, it's that thing that... Not whist. What's the other one? The thing that people spend days and days playing, don't they?
Well, you can. The games are short, but you can play forever. I've probably played several tens of thousands of games of this in my life. It is the most popular one, and a lot of it gets played here in Canada, and it is the game of cribbage.
Cribbage, that's it. I played that quite recently, actually, so I should have got that. It's quite fun, actually, cribbage.
We're going to have to play this summer, Theo.
We will. We'll have to do some cribbage. You can actually do, these days, you can get quite good cribbage apps that you can put on your kind of iPad, and that acts as the board and makes the whole thing a bit more straightforward.
That makes a lot of sense.
There's lots of moving of pegs and things, isn't there?
It is, but it is fun, pegging. My children love it.
Pegging? Sorry.
That's what we call it.
Pegging has another connotation.
Oh, does it?
In these parts. A much darker connotation, which I will explain at the end of the podcast.
Fair enough.
It's an off-air one.
Fair enough. We want to keep an E off of our podcast on the platforms.
We do. We want to keep that E off, so let's not dive into pegging as a subject. So 24 across. PA insisted on. It's an anagram. The clue is permission to be excused. So it's PA insisted on, permission to be excused. Now, it begins with D.
And I would imagine it ends in ION, because we have an O in the second last letter.
Yes, that's a very good shout. So
it's not hitting me initially.
No. Let's see if we can fill in a few more
agreed.
gaps. We have 12 minutes left, by the way.
Okay. Let's hurry up then. Attention Seeker's Whisper. This is 21 down. It's 4 letters long.
Because you would say a stage whisper, wouldn't you? Psst. That's brilliant.
I think that must be it.
A non-vowel answer.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Psst.
Yeah.
P-S-S-T. Okay. So I think it does end in shun.
I got it. It's dispensation. Like a papal dispensation.
Beautifully done, Rob.
Yeah.
Beautifully done. Your anagram skills never cease to amaze.
That one was hairy for a second, but then the psst put it all into its proper perspective. And you know we're completely triggering listeners who are waiting for us to whisper something confidential to them after our psst. So apologies.
Psst, I'm going to tell you what pegging is.
But not on air.
Right, 23 across. It connects muscle to bone.
Yep.
5, I think we can get that. Begins with
Yep.
S. It must be a sinew.
Sinew, yeah.
Which gives our situation lacking in privacy, 8-4, a penultimate letter of W.
Yes.
Come on.
Now, suddenly take hold, because we can get one more letter on that, is 20 across, 4 letters, second letter is R. Suddenly take hold.
Grip.
Yeah, that could be grip or grab, I was thinking.
Yeah.
But if we look at I think the P at the end of that would give us probably something more interesting for situation lacking privacy, which is, if that ends in a P, then it's P space W space.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
I quite like, I like grab. I think grab's a better guess for that anyway.
But what word is B space W space?
Oh, I suppose it could be B-E-W-S? Buse. But that doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything there.
No. Let's go back. There's one we left in our wake, which is 17 down. Muscle at the front of the upper arm. It ends, it's 6 letters ending in E space S.
It's our old friend, the bicep? No.
Yep.
Oh yeah, biceps.
Biceps, which I think is a Britishism. I think we would just call it the bicep, unless you're talking about both of them, maybe.
Or guns, as they're called in America.
Guns. That's right. Yeah. What is it? Thunder and lightning.
Oh yeah. Which way to the beach? All of
Give
that.
a kiss to the meech. Yeah.
Yeah.
So our book plate is E space, and then 6 letters, space B space I space.
I'm worried this is going to trip us up.
I'm very worried this is going to trip us up.
Can we get 19 down, which is sports car and yoga position? 5 letters.
It's a British sports car too.
Is a Lotus. Oh, I know what it is. It's Ex Libris. And the reason I know that is because my father and I often play a parlour game called Ex Libris.
Oh.
Which is a really fun game. I do recommend it. You basically read out the synopsis of a book, and then the players have to make up either the opening sentence or the final sentence of that book, and then all those are read out alongside the real one, and you have to guess which one is the real one.
That's so good.
You get a point if people guess your version, or you get a point if you guess which one is the correct version. So it's really, it's so fun. It's a top.
Let's add that to the
game.
list this summer.
Yes, let's do that. We've got it actually up in Northumberland. So yeah, I'll see if my dad's up for a round or two.
I'd be up for a round or two. So coming, Theo, I think is now clear. It is now F as in Francine, space T, space R, space. So that I think is reasonably self-evident, which is future.
Oh, I was looking at it thinking, father? What? Future. Well done.
Do we want to go back to our starting point? Because if we could get this easy trouble-free, maybe that would give us the last letter of our situation lacking privacy, which may...
Yeah. Good thinking. Easy trouble free. So blank L, blank I, blank is the first word. And then the second word is 7 letters. And it has an I as the third and the 5th letter. So, slick would... No, it wouldn't. No,
it wouldn't.
Ignore me.
The L space I space is confusing. I'm a little flummoxed.
Oh, I've got it, Rob.
Oh, man.
It's plain sailing.
Oh, yes. Yes. So good, Theo.
Which was not, ironically, plain sailing.
No.
But we did get there in the end. 4 down, lead astray, 6 letters.
Yeah.
S blank D blank C. So, I mean, I'm thinking seduce.
I was thinking the same thing. I don't think anything Well, lead you astray from your marital vows.
I'd say that's a rather prudish description for the word seduce. Lead astray.
I was led astray.
The chaperone turned her back for 1 second, and my niece was led astray. Abomination. Right. We've got 5 minutes left.
Okay.
So situation lacking in privacy now begins with a G. So it's 8-4, and it's G blank L blank F blank S blank is the first word, and then the second word has a third letter of W. A situation lacking in privacy.
It's all in the first word. G space L space F space S space.
So between the G and the L, there must be well, it could be anything, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, come on, what on earth? Oh, I've got it. Of course. So it's, I was looking at it too literally, I think. It's a goldfish bowl, isn't it?
Yes. Which makes our 20 across suddenly take hold, space R space B.
Which is indeed grab.
And when I was saying what word could fit in B space W space, no doubt some canny listener or many were yelling, bowl, you dummy.
Right, I've stopped the clock. 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. I mean, this is pretty good going this week, Rob, if indeed we are correct. Can I just say, by the way, get of the day is psst. That was brilliant. I thought that was just inspired. I don't think I would have seen that for many, many more minutes, if at all. So well done. Okay, let's check. Let's check all and see if we are correct.
Just before we do, is there anything we're not sure about? Plain sailing, adage, decibel, kelp, ice shelf, future, mouse, ex libris, grab. I'm not seeing anything that I'm...
No. I think all the spellings are pretty straightforward this week, actually.
Yes, they are.
So yeah, let's go for it.
All right.
Okay, drum roll. We are correct.
Kaboom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we have some breathing space at last.
We have some breathing space. There's got to be a German compound noun for that.
Yes, something schmerz.
Yes. Breathing weariness.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm suffering from breathing weariness. Yes.
Limbo schmerz.
It just all has schmerz in it, whatever it is.
I'm actually talking of Germany, Rob. I'm going on a trip to Germany later in the year.
When?
So I'm going to watch the premiere of my great grandmother's play,
really?
Which was found in a drawer basically by my mum and my uncle, and she's quite a big name playwright in Germany, and her work is kind of being rediscovered now. And anyway, they're going to put this. So strangely, it was written in English because it was after she'd moved to England in the 30s, but it's being performed in German, so they've translated it back into German, and
wow.
It's going to be interesting. But I will report on that at the time. I do it. That trip's in September, so.
When and where? What's the?
So it's at the end of September, and it's in a place called Meiningen, which is the nearest kind of big city, I suppose, is Frankfurt. So we're going to fly into Frankfurt.
Nice.
So I'm going with quite a few members of my family.
Nice.
And then we're going to get the train to Meiningen and watch this performance, which is really, really exciting and quite moving. I think that my grandmother, whose work was banned by the Nazis, is now kind of having a renaissance. Her work is being discovered again, which is just wonderful. But yeah, as I say, I'll talk about that in a future episode, I'm sure.
So we may have a few remote podcasts from Germany, because I'm going to be in Germany in September as well.
Whenabouts in September? Towards the end?
Well, a little earlier, unfortunately. I'll be there sort of early to mid. A friend is celebrating their 50th and has gathered friends from around the world, including Australia, where he's from, for a hike/piss up in the Black Forest.
Nice.
which are two things I don't tend to combine just because the one tends to affect the other.
Yes. Yeah, you'd want to be doing the hiking before the... Yeah.
Well, the problem is every morning you got to get up after the night before and get back on the trail. So we have very specific wayposts that we have to hit. He's mapped it all out. So, yeah.
That sounds fun, though. I'm longing to do a long hike at some point. I really am. I'd like maybe to do a coast to coast here, or do what's the trail in Spain, the Santiago
de Compostela.
Yeah, one of those. Something as a sort of multi-day journey. But I think I probably need to wait a couple of years till the kids are just that little bit older.
Maybe we'll do that in season 3, Theo, when we turn to across into a walking podcast where we cross
big time.
We cross land masses.
To across, we could do crosswords as we cross a particular patch of land. I think we should definitely do that at some point, Rob.
Well, we got to start brainstorming season 2 because, of course, we're coming near the end of season 1, which
Indeed.
We had agreed we would end at the end of the British school year to give ourselves a proper summer, because obviously putting on this podcast is an incredible burden on both of us, but we do it as a public service.
Indeed. All of our listeners crying out week in, week out. You just got to give the public what they want, Rob.
Yeah, we do. Whatever the toll, whatever the cost may be.
Whatever the cost. I'm really looking forward to seeing you all again, and we should endeavour to do an in-person record while we can.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, Rob, how's things looking for you? What have you been up to in the last few days, and what's on your horizon?
So this week and last, my 2 boys are away at camp, at sleepaway camp. This is a very Canadian thing. I know some people do it in the UK, but it is also a very Canadian tradition to go to a lake somewhere and sleep in cabins and just get up to all kinds of ballyhoo and eat poorly and spend a lot of time in canoes. And so they're doing that.
Nice.
My oldest child, my daughter, went to Quebec City to spend time with her family on that side, and so my wife and I were free, which has not happened in an age, and so we went north to sleep in a treehouse for the weekend, which was really cool. We went to the Éco-Parc Forestier Laurentide, I think it's called, something like that, and they have about a dozen or more treehouses of different sizes that you can sleep in. It's very rustic. There's no electricity, there's no running water. You have to kind of haul your water up from the lake and so forth, but it was just excellent. And they have about a good 30 kilometers of walking trails. So we just spent the weekend walking. There's a beautiful lake in the middle of it with no power boats and nothing, surrounded just by woods, completely wild. So we swam, we walked, we ate, we sat in hammocks, we read, and it was absolutely gorgeous. It was
bliss.
Total bliss. So definite plug for Éco-Parc Forestier Laurentide, which I'm probably mispronouncing, so no one will be able to find it, but maybe we can put a link in the show notes if anyone's ever out here and wants to sleep in a treehouse. So that was great. And then moving forward, this week is fairly casual. Obviously, we have England v Netherlands this week, which we might want to talk about for a moment. And then this weekend, my mother-in-law's 70th birthday, we're celebrating. And then next week, I'm taking my children on a road trip to play an A-tier disc golf tournament, the Tri-State Championship, which is going to be in Vermont, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. And there is a place where the 3 of them come very close together. There's a tri-state area, as Americans like to call it.
Wow.
And so there's going to be 3 different courses, each in a different state. And the children play a 3-day tournament at each of the courses. So we've rented a little cottage. It's just me taking the kids. My wife's going to get a break. And so, it's going to be a pretty fun 2 weeks.
And it always makes me smile that whole journey began with us throwing a few discs at trees in Brockwell Park.
Yes.
That was the acorn that has produced this oak tree of a flourishing disc golf interest in your children, and I just think that's such a brilliant thing.
It's great, and they all agree on it, which is really cool. They all enjoy playing. They're all quite good, So it makes it pretty no-brainer to go out and do it, and there's not a lot of complaining.
That's so nice. That's so nice to have that as a family, I think, to just, an activity that you can all do and that takes you to different parts of the country and has a competitive element, but not in that kind of nasty way that can so often accompany child sports. The classic image of the touchline dad, screaming at the referee and all that stuff. I don't think that's really the way it goes with disc golf, is it?
No. We have hockey dads here.
Hockey dad, I can well imagine.
Just sitting in the cold rink, bundled up, yelling at the ref or yelling at the coach for not giving their kid enough ice time.
Nothing worse.
No, I mean, I do that on the disc golf course, like... I told you to throw the forehand flex shot. What are you doing throwing a backhand hyzer?
Why did you choose the buzz and not the AVR? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Get out.
Force them to do 20 push-ups in front of the other competitors.
Bit of niche disc golf terminology there for those on the outside.
Well, to pique the interest of those who are uninitiated. And you all will be one day.
I have a sporting link to talk about by way of sharing my recent activities, which was on the day before the general election. Kate and I went to Wimbledon. And
very nice.
Got to sit on centre court, fortunately, because it was raining quite a lot that day. So we were able to sit under the roof on centre court and watch a few matches, including the all-Italian clash between Yannick Sinner and Matteo Berrettini, which was probably one of the matches of the tournament so far. It was a great encounter. I mean, they're both sort of big-hitting Italians, and Berrettini has previously been a finalist at Wimbledon, and Sinner is currently the world number one. So it was a real kind of meeting of the past and the future. And it's just, I mean, I have been to Wimbledon once before, but there's something about just sitting on that court that you've seen on television so many times before, and just sort of taking in the spectacle of it. I think the centre court itself is just the perfect sporting arena. I think size-wise it's ideal. I mean, we were sitting quite near the back, but it wasn't. You still have a really good view, and the aesthetic is just stunning. That the green of the grass against the white of the lines and the purple, and it just all sort of works aesthetically. And a great thing about going to Wimbledon is just walking around the outside courts and being able to, just get a couple of meters away from a match between two kind of top-ranked players. And I'm a tennis player myself, as I have previously mentioned. But you see these men and women hit the ball, and it's just a different game. It's just amazing, the physics of the ball, and watching the way that they kind of hit it at full whack. The ball kind of shoots forward, and then suddenly the topspin kicks in, and it just drops inside the court. And it's just this trajectory of ball that I've never been able to replicate myself. But sort of seeing it, and the other aspect of it is the sound. It's that sound that it makes that is just exquisite. It just sounds so perfect. And
they're hitting the right spot of the racket every time.
Exactly that. So that was nice. And we're nearing our summer holidays, so I need to make the most of these final few days of having an empty house and being able to actually get some work done. So it's all good. It's all busy. There's lots going on, but I think that's quite nice. I feel sort of like life is being lived.
I like the free-flowing nature of summer. And Montreal is a city that has a pretty oppressive winter, and it really lives it up in the summer. So the other thing we've been doing is going to see a lot of the Montreal Jazz Fest, which ended this Sunday or this Saturday. But that's a 7 to 10 day long outdoor festival with lots of amazing acts. And actually, I saw one of my all-time hip-hop icons on stage at the Jazz Fest. Really surprised me. They brought Freddie Gibbs to play. And Freddie Gibbs, if anyone listens to hip-hop, is about as foul-mouthed of a hip-hop artist as you could possibly get. He's absolutely brilliant. But his show was something else. He started with a long tirade of F the police and got the entire crowd to chant along F the police. He was backed by a top quality kind of jazz trio called the El Mitchell's Affair. And there was a massive crowd. Like there were probably about 10,000 people standing on the street watching this. And if anyone's been to Montreal before, we have a thing called the Quartier des Spectacles, which is the festival quarter basically. And they close it off to traffic, and they've done it up. They have permanent light standards and everything. And so there's a permanent space for these festivals, and several are held in a row, including this one. But this space was just heaving with people, and he had everyone going. And then at some point, his guy came up, one of his roadies comes up and puts a blunt in his mouth, and which is, a joint rolled in a cigar. And he's smoking this blunt as he's talking. And then he'd take a few tokes for a while, and then he'd get into a song and he's toking on, and then he puts it out, puts it behind his ear, keeps going for a while. The guy comes out and relights it for him at some point. And then he finishes his joint kind of casually over half an hour, because of course marijuana is legal in Montreal and in Canada in general. And so he was enjoying that fact. And then the guy was coming out and bringing him shots of vodka as well during his thing. Wow. And he was just, and you kept thinking, okay, he just smoked a massive joint, and he's sort of drinking back the vodka and probably had a bit before. But he had this kind of mischievous look on his face, you think I'm going to kind of mess up. You think I'm a bit messed up, don't you? And then he would launch into this sort of machine gun precision delivery of his lyrics, which are just incredible. His flow is quite unique, and to take a rap term, and can be really rapid fire in certain things. And he was just on, it was incredible. He just had the crowd completely in his lap. And actually the newspaper, La Presse, which is one of the big Montreal newspapers, said it was basically the show of the festival, at least to date. He played about halfway through. So yeah, all that to say though, that Montreal, when it comes to summer, is really free flowing. It's just sort of in and out the door to various things, wandering over to see some live music, going down to picnic on the canal, do whatever. But we're sort of, the door is always open, and we're just sort of in and out, running around, doing different things in the evenings, which is it's a great city for the summer for those who haven't experienced it.
It's a great city generally, but it has loads of good cultural stuff going on, doesn't it? And I have to say that what you're just describing as a festival sounds so much more my scene than, say, a Glastonbury or a Reading or something over here, where you got to go and sleep in a muddy field. And
although I do like that too, if you can go with a couple of mates and have
I've done a few of those when I was in my 20s, and there's definitely a place for it. But I think at this stage of my life, I'd be much more for that. But anyway, we should probably call it a day.
We probably should. All right. Well, shall we move to said green room and allow our listeners to move out into the world beyond this podcast and embrace what it holds for them?
Indeed. Difficult as that is to imagine that there's a world beyond Two Across, we must concede that there probably is. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening, everybody. And as always, you can follow us on X at 2acrosspod, or contact us on Gmail, 2acrosspod@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. We are always grateful for your company and for sticking with us till episode 26. Do join us for episode 27. And in the meantime, take care. Bye-bye.